Hello YouTube, back to day 4 of the 2021 18-meter nationals at Nephi. Another 100-mile-an-hour day and the first racing task of the contest. So we had 3 100-mile-per-hour plus days for large groups of the fleet, but still we're doing area tasks every day. There was a little bit of instability the first day, a little bit the second day, but the third day I really was hoping to see a racing task, and we finally got it on the fourth day. So you can see if you go to the SSA website under results and recent contests and go to 2021 or any year, you can see any contest, all the reports, usually done by Rich Owen, who does a great job with these reports. Thank you, Rich. All the scores for each day, summaries, archives, and flight logs. Archives are the FLARM tracks, which usually aren't very good in the US, but it's nice that they have them. It is annoying that we don't use Soaring Spot and FAI scoring with CU. So much better, so much more resources in terms of reviewing the task and seeing the task and all the capability and integration that's combined there. This is all part of a proprietary scoring system called CU that's been used by the SSA for about 20 years. It's very old software, and there's not a lot they can do with it. But anyway, that's what we've got. And if you go into this day is another blazing day in Utah, I think it's July 3rd, excuse me. Did we get another 100-mile-an-hour day? Rich talks about the task, and the one big thing is that there were clouds well to the east of the second turn point, farther back out over the plateau and over what I call Mars. This is an extremely difficult area to fly. There's quite a bit of risk there. I'm sure the locals will laugh at me for saying that, but as a flatlander, there's a lot to think about back there. And some of the guys tried to go back out to a line of clouds that were set up further to the east, which was a huge deviation, and that was probably where most of the pilots who won the day gained, and a lot of guys who were doing well up to that point got into some trouble, and then back out across the plateau over the valley, and then back on final glide. First for the day was Peter Dean, 2 Tango. Second was John Seaborn, Alpha 8, and I was able to win the day at 163.64, which was a pretty quick speed for a racing task, and I was real excited about it. Of course, with a racing task, you can't just follow the clouds into the area. You've got to go to a specific point, half-mile radius at each turn point, and this was the first task in the U.S., or the first nationals in the U.S. that had basically adopted FAI rules. So we're using FAI starts and FAI turns, so no additional distance for the turn points if you go a little deeper in, none of that madness. So I was really excited to fly this day. Here are the results. I moved into first this day. John Seaborn was second, Rick Ingerbrough third, then Dave Coggins, Andy Blackburn, Bob Fletcher, Jim Lee, and on down. And you can see this is the overall rank each day. The US scoring does the overall rank and not really the daily rank. You have to look here for the day scores and see that I was first, Peter was second, Dave Leonard was 8th. Dave is actually one of the guys who took a big deviation today, so we'll have to look at him. But that's how the U.S. scoring works. And now over to CU. You can see the task. Here's the start line. Salt Lake City is up here to the north off the screen. Ely is out here to the west off the screen. The first leg down to the south, down to Monroe Peak. Then out over this huge Wasatch Valley, I believe it's called, Wasatch Plateau, and it just slowly rises out of this valley. This is a valley that is one to the east of the Nephi Valley, here just south of Provo, and this just steeply rises here, but then slowly rises and goes back and back and back to this high desert that is basically Mars. Absolutely nowhere to land out here, and not really a lot of places to land here at all. So this is quite a scary leg back here, and we're going pretty deep back here to start point. And then likely into the wind back here to Indian Ranch, which was a little bit of a challenge to get to. You had to go over 2 valleys and then back home to the finish, as you can see right here. So let's close that. And here we're facing south, looking at the start line. You could see the group generally where they went, stayed down on the high ground. This is the 2D view with all the traces highlighted. Somebody misprogrammed their task, it looks like there. I think he knows who he is, and we won't name him, but that was very sad because he was going very fast to this point. And then this is that line out up to the Star Point turn point. This is the high ground on the face of the plateau. Some people went out into the plateau a little bit. And Zulu Lima is this yellow trace. He went way out here, and obviously this is that line of clouds that was sitting out there that Rich had mentioned. And man, oh man, that took a lot of guts, because this is way back here. And there might be an airport or two out here, but there's virtually nowhere to land. It is complete moonscape, rocks, desert, but it's not smooth, flat desert. It's rocky. And here we get to the Star Point turn. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe they started the motor and we're just playing around. And then we went back out all the way across here to Indian Point and then back up to the finish. Barograph here, 2D here, 3D here. This data here below the 3D view, that's ordered based on the results for the day, the daily score. So I'm on the top, Alpha 8, 2 Tango, Peter Dean, 9 Bravo, Andy Blackburn, DG, Dave Coggins, 9-0, Bob Fletcher, VH, Clay Thomas, good flight today. Zulu Lima, Dave Leonard, God bless him for this heroic move back here. Still pulls out 8th. That is very interesting. A lot of extra distance. Alan Adams, AA, and Romeo Fox. Okay, so let's jump in. Let's make sure we're at 10. And I'm going to start the flight. We're tasked on 7 Tango, and I'm going to speed it up until we get out to the start. One other thing I wanted to kind of mention here is I think, so ASG 29, and then it was JS3, of course this is a racing tact, JS3, and 6th ASG 29. So first ASG 29, 1, 2, 3, 4, JS3, then another 29. And then if I scroll down to look for 7th, another JS3. And 8th, ASG 29, 9th, another JS3. So sort of the task of the JS3s. And I've got to say, I mean, in these kind of days, those gliders are quick. And it was very, very hard to hold on to a JS3 in these kind of conditions. It was mostly blue today, which was probably the one thing in our favor. You had to feel for the climbs, and obviously with a racing task, making the best use of the gliders that were around you and ahead of you was very important. I think it's pretty much no question in my mind that John Seaborn probably flew faster today just through the air, but he started first again, and that's just gonna hurt your speed, especially in a day like today where it's blue. It's a big risk to fly alone in the blue through, especially in this task back in this area. Getting low alone, getting isolated, huge risk. If we look here, you can see everybody's between 11 and even 16,000 feet for 9-0. So it's already very strong. Let's see what the start times were. So again, pretty late start times in the day, starting at 3:38 for 7 Tango, 3:34 for John Seaborn, so roughly 4 minutes back. 3:32, a little earlier for Rick Ingerbo. So even without having the the regionals there, we still got quite a late start, and it looked like on the replay here, like there was a delay, like they held the launch for quite a while. There's something interesting. So you can see right there, the start gate was opened at this point, and you can see the entire group coming down to what looks like 12,000 feet. So that's sort of the check-in altitude for an FAI competition. At least that's what the rules were at this point. And as the last launched gliders are coming up through 10,000 feet, the CD says, okay, check-in height. And everybody has to, and he opens or gets ready to open the start gate, and everyone has to come down to that minimum altitude and then climb back up again so that it's fair for everyone. And you could see some of the first starts happening right here where the traces are turning to color. Hi, Vaughn.
Hi.
Hi. I'm going to pause it, okay?
Okay.
All right. Say hi. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
What do you want to do?
I want to fly the Hoots airplane at the dome.
You want to fly a big RC airplane at the big soccer dome where we fly on Wednesdays?
Nah.
But it's not Wednesday yet. We got to wait 2 more sleeps.
But it is Wednesday, you see? It's Wednesday.
It's not Wednesday yet. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep doing this, okay? All right. Okay, so that was my son, Vaughn. All right, so now everybody is climbing back up, and you can see there's one huge gaggle here. I'll look from above. Oh, shoot. I've got it going so fast that I kind of missed that, so I will back up. Okay, so the first starters are out. Looks like Victor 1, 8-9er, and 9-8. Zulu Lima and Alpha 8. I believe that's Alpha 8. Right there. Juliet Lima starting, and you could see this big gaggle getting ready to go. And there's the starting line. All right, and I'm going, you've seen the task, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on this so we can follow what's going on a little bit more closely. And it's kind of cool here in the barograph, at least you can see where the starters are. And what I'm noticing here is that some of these first starters are not as high as this next round of starters. So they started a little bit lower than this next round, and that makes sense as the heating of the day happens and the convection is getting higher and higher. The later start, you get a little bump in altitude, and it wasn't very much. This is only 10 minutes, so 2130 to 2140, but there's a little bit of a kick in the starting height. Hold on, Vaughn. All right, sorry about that. So yeah, that's interesting, and I love looking at the barograph just generally. So we wait 2 or 3 minutes, and then there goes the next group. So I'm sort of the lead of the second group, but still huge amount of gliders are sitting back and waiting, but some big players here, 7 Tango, Alpha 8, 8-9er, have gone out ahead. And on a racing task, that's quite risky because everybody can start 2 or 3 minutes behind you, and if they're a good enough pilot, they can catch you. Now they have 3 minutes, which is probably worth 10 or 15 points at least, if not more. But in a general rule, it's already almost, go back to this, it's already almost 1600. It's already almost 4 o'clock, and we have a nearly 500 kilometer racing task, and we have to go way to the back of that plateau. So that, in my notes, that's kind of what I was thinking. I felt like I could race away from the majority of the pilots, and I felt like Alpha 8, 8-9er, 9 or 8 out ahead were sort of enough, but I wasn't comfortable with this. I would have rather waited a little while longer and had a little bit more to work with, but the pressure was late in the day. So here you can see Zulu Lima, 8-9er and 9-8, and I think that's the entire group. All right, so I'll leave it. Yeah, I like this better. I'll leave it here at this direction. It's a little easier to see without the white background. All right, so the first run, 51 kilometers at a 63 LD. That's pretty good. Alpha and average ground speed 212. The wind is light out of the west northwest here, so getting a little aid maybe from the wind, but you can see Alpha 8 flying 20 kilometers faster, 10 miles per hour faster. But he's also getting a little flatter, a little less glide ratio. So, the same MO as always. 2 Tango, 225, 234. DG is also a JS3. He's flying quite slow, 231. So Bob Fletcher is flying a little bit faster, but I'm always a little bit slower. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking for. And 981 is making the decision to shoot over to the high terrain, and everybody else is just running straight down the valley to this terrain. And you can see everybody beginning to deviate. I think there were puffs of clouds or wisps or something today, but it was mostly blue. So only one deviation so far in strategy, and that's 981. And 90, who started behind me in this run, and 9 Bravo, who started behind me, they basically catch me in the run. Let me slow this down just a little bit so I can see what's going on. And let me go back. So the first climb, 3.2 meters a second for 1,700 feet, 2 minutes, 41 seconds. And that whole group is here together. So I'm barely on top, a little higher than 90, a little higher than 9 Bravo. 2 Tango started a little bit further behind us. He's a little lower. And I believe this climb was marked by Alpha 8. And Romeo Fox is in here as well. So we're at 16.2. It's going to have to be a really strong climb rate to be worth stopping. Zulu Oscar's there with me. 90, flying faster again. He'll burn right up to me. 9 Bravo as well. And so we're right here. And you can see 9, for whatever reason, 9.8 and 8.9 kind of deviated to the left here, to the east, and then they're bending back around to the west here. And once again, if I pause here, so another fairly long glide, but I got a negative 425 glide ratio. Romeo Fox gets a negative 94. So I'm flying a little slower, but I'm actually maintaining my altitude for this run of 30 kilometers. Nobody else really does that, although a lot of them are pretty flat, but Alpha 8 only 110. Not sure about 9.8 and 8.9 are out ahead. They're not on the top 10 here. But that's pretty good to be able to maintain the altitude. Where'd 90 go? That's 9 Bravo. There's 2 Tango working a little bit lower. Where is 90? Oh, that's 9 Bravo. So this is 90 right here. Okay. We'll try and see what's going on ahead of us. Romeo Fox is pulling into a lot of climbs. We're still at 15.8. There's only 1,500 feet to climb up until the airspace above. So you need a pretty strong climb rate to make it worthwhile. And you can see here I stop in 3.3, just a few turns for 51 seconds. And Romeo Fox comes into that same climb. And Zulu Oscar's in there with me as well. 9-0 to Tango, continue. 9 Bravo, blasting out ahead. And, almost to 17,000 feet there. And you've got to leave room. One thing to think about, you've got to leave room. You're finding really high, really flat glides, even negative glide ratios here, where you're actually climbing in a straight line. And if you climb to 17,000 feet or 17.5, you have no room to use that energy. You're forced to waste it. So you want to leave a reasonable amount of altitude in case you get some positive air. So I probably really didn't need to take that climb, but for whatever reason I did. So you can see here Alpha 8, 8-9er, 9 or 8, Zulu Lima, some heads of state there, Victor 1, and I'm right in here with 90 Zulu Oscar in this group. So we're coming back across to this high terrain, or the leeward side of this high terrain, White Pine Peak, which has been a turn point several times in the previous 3 days. But this is all steadily rising terrain, but we're actually a little bit on the lee side here. But you get hot spots on the lee side of the mountains, and they become buoyant, and because there isn't wind blowing them, they have a chance to heat up a little bit, and then they pop up and tear off and drift down to leeward. So it's a good spot to find climbs. And again, this is one bad part of this, is it's so long ago I can't tell you exactly what kind of cues we were getting in terms of haze domes or clouds or even birds or that sort of thing. Zulu Oscar pulled through there ahead of me. 909 Bravo. And just for scale, this group is going well. Alpha 8 is caught up to 9-8. I'm not sure where he started relative to Zulu. 8-9er is blasting out ahead and is almost to the turn point. And he's at, I don't know what altitude he's at. Let's take a look. 8-9er, 14,000 feet. So he's actually getting in there reasonably high, and he's just going extremely fast. So there's 8-9er right there. And we're coming back over the valley to get into the turn point here. And just for comparison, 9 Bravo is down at 13,000 feet, only a little bit ahead. 9-0's at 14.9, and I'm at 16.2. So I'm staying high. I'm losing a little bit of distance on the guys ahead, but overall on a blue day, it's a pretty good idea to use energy when you can find it. And the prospects here after this turn are out into another big valley initially. A good climb there for this group. 3.5 meters a second. That's Alpha 8. He's going to take that right up to 17,000. And looks like everybody saw it and is deviating now into it. So 90 is on top of me a little bit. 9 Bravo's a little below. I don't see 2 Tango in here yet. There's 2 Tango. So this group basically staying together. It's just a battle for altitude. Zulu Lima is coming out of the turn point and coming right back to this climb. I did it for 3.6, 9 Bravo, 3.6, 90 is getting a little bit more, almost 4 meters a second. So this is a nice spot to top off before we go into that final turn. This is facing south-southwest. So 8-9er hits the turn, bang, straight out on course. Alpha 8, the same thing, straight out on course. All right, so there we hit the turn. So does everybody else. And you can see 90 and 7 Tango are going to come back to that climb. Not much of a deviation to come back to that same point. And look at that. We get 3.6. 2 Tango comes in again, gets 3.6. 90 gets 3.6, and we take it for, I take it only for a minute and get back up to probably close to 17,000. 2 Tango takes it for 1,600 and 90 for 2,000. And you can see here, Alpha 8, 9er 8, 8-9er, Zulu Lima, Victor 1, just straight out on course. So they sort of passed up this this climb that was relatively close to the turn point. I saw 1 Charlie in our the top of the gaggle there. Just looking back. Different line for 2 Tango and 90. They're going a little bit more westerly. And I'm going a little bit more on course. 9 Bravo, Romeo Fox, also a little bit more westerly. That might be, or sorry, easterly. That might be a better thing, because if I zoom out here, I'm on course, but they're getting to this high terrain sooner. And the wind is actually, well, right now it's 216 at 3, but I could tell you generally it was west-northwest. So they're getting onto the high terrain a little sooner by being a little farther to the east. And for whatever reason, if we look back here, yeah, it looks like I'm kind of a little dazed. I'm right on course and then sort of angling back, where these guys go right out and try and get over on the high terrain right away. Maybe there was cloud choice here, or there was wisp or something, but I think I lose because of this. And all those guys gain a little bit. And there I cash in and get back up onto this good line that everybody seems to be finding. And so there might have been an energy line here. This would make sense, as the wind is 266 at 13. The air is starting to corone up and over these fairly sizable mountains. And if I zoom in here just a little bit, you know, we're starting to get up onto the plateau here, and the terrain is getting steadily higher and higher and higher as you go east. And you can see the advantage that I had in height has kind of gone away, and now I'm kind of low. I'm at 15.8. 90's holding at 17,000, and he's been running for a while. So it's a 123 glide ratio. I think he climbed a little higher than I did. I'm doing great again, 168 glide ratio. But unfortunately, I'm finding myself basically 1,000 feet below, if you consider 90 sort of my pacing pilot right now, which he kind of is. Alpha 8's out here alone. 9-8 and 8-9er are working sort of the leading edge of the plateau, and Zulu Lima and Alpha 8 are just going out into the high terrain, as this group is. So you can sort of see, you can see right here This is the next turn point, and this is the plateau, and this is that desert that I was talking about that is unlandable pretty much. All right. That's a pretty good view. We'll hold the camera right there. So you can see from these LDs how powerful the conditions were. Zulu Lima now has, zoom out just a little bit, sort of made the decision to go back for these clouds and look at that deviation. This is the course line, and he is off to the races. So right now, he also has one of the highest average speeds. This is Zulu Lima's velocity average to this point. The fastest is Romeo Fox right now at 183. Actually, 2 Tango at 185 and 9 Bravo at 186. But at this point, he was top 3 for the day, and then he makes this deviation to go for the clouds. And this is what it looked like. I'll turn right here a little bit so you can see. That is quite a bold move. All right, so looks like 9 Bravo's in a climb, or sorry, 9889 are in a climb. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Okay, so looks like a turn and a miss for me. 9-0 and 2 Tango continue. Romeo Fox is more on the windward edge of the elevation change into the plateau, closer to the valley, off to the west. That was a miss. Each miss is worth maybe 1 to 1.5 kilometers per hour of average speed, I would say. All things being equal. Alpha 8 pulls into 2.7 meters a second, right there. Nine Bravo gets 2.8, so good strong climb there. And I arrived late. I only get 2.6. So checking in, 9 Bravo is on top. One of those JS3s that really, I mean, you saw how many JS3s were in the top 10. I don't think that's an accident. I think it's just a very fast glider in these conditions where you're running at 100, 110 knots, and getting a lot of energy aid. So running down streets, running down ridges, any kind of energy line, they have a real advantage. And you can see maybe a hint of that here. All right, 2 Tango takes off, and 7 Tango and 9-0 take off. And it looks like we're kind of favoring the western edge or the valley side of the terrain here. You can see 9 Bravo. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Yeah, this is the lead pack, and you can see 9 Bravo is not deviating as much and is taking a line that is up into the higher terrain, where this is from here to here is a big increase in it's probably 2,000 feet, maybe 2,500 feet up here, where the elevation change from this line to this line is probably only 1,000 feet. So you have much steeper terrain rise here. And that's probably why these guys are angling over here. These are pretty steep mountain faces here. Romeo Fox is pulled into 2.3 meters a second there. And I just noticed one thing. Zulu Lima. So let's look at Zulu Lima. David Leonard, who's probably made it to that cloud line now. So a huge deviation. He was probably a little low, yep, 13,000, but he hits 4 meters a second. So we're still getting 2.5, maybe 3 meters a second here. He made a massive deviation for 3.7 meters a second and takes it up for 6,000 feet to run that line of clouds down this way, and then he's got to deviate back. So for that much deviation, if you do the math on it, I'll just do it off the top of my head. There's great John Cochran articles on his blog that sort of give you the mathematics of this. But to do that deviation and then to do that deviation back, he's probably going to need double the climb rate if it was in thermals. But because he's going down a line of clouds, he's going to need a lot of lift and a lot of speed to gain back up. And overall, even though this is a very bold move, he lost a little bit by doing this, I would say. So we'll watch and see what happens. And there he is going up in a massive climb. 8-knotter out there. And then looking back, just checking in. 981, Papa Mike, Foxtrot Hotel. And look how big of a gap. Look, here's the lead group, and the back group has fallen back quite a bit. So Heads of State up here really cooking, and Zulu Lima is trying an end around on the group here, which if it got weak in here, he could have kicked our butts, but it's a big risk to do that. So 9-0 and 7 Tango are scrapping here together, looking for a little bit more climb. We're at about 15,000 respectively. We're quite a bit higher than PM, Papa Mike down there, and Foxtrot Hotel. But we're both really fighting to get up here. And the reason is because pretty soon we have to go all the way out over this tiger country, out to that turn point and back out. And this is all flat land, but tiger land. It's the top of a plateau, and you can see all these mountains and ravines. There's no airports. There's an airport here. Not sure if that's an airport, but we're definitely getting a little spooked in terms of trying to get high enough to comfortably go in and out here without getting stuck. So that's the behavior that I think we're seeing, and we're definitely slowing down here quite a bit trying to do that. That being said, I'm getting some incredible LDs here. So I'm finding good air. I'm just not finding something good enough to circle in. Look at that. Big climb. 9-0 is doing kind of the same, but we're not finding cores. So who knows? Maybe this is a little bit of light wave or ridge, and we're just not able to identify what's happening here. So 9-0, this might be the point where he doesn't find a climb. And I come into Romeo Fox, so it's nice to have a marker. 9-0 is kind of departed and is going off on his own, but I find 3 meters a second here underneath Romeo Fox, who's at 3.1, and take it for 1,600 feet. And that might have been the moment that I broke away from 9-0. And you can see 2 Tango and 9 Bravo average, velocity average right now to this point, I'm at 169. Or sorry, velocity task, I am at 162. Oh, I'm sorry, it's velocity average, excuse me. 169, Alpha 8's at 170, 2 Tangos at 179, 9 Bravos at 178. So right now at this point, these two are killing us. And 2 JS3s, just to note. And another JS3 right there, which is also ahead. I think I'm in roughly third with 9-0. 8-9er and 9 Bravo, in my opinion, are, let's look at them, because they, 9-8 and 8-9er, so that's Rick Ingerbro and Peter Alexander, are killing it. So they are both faster than I am, 173 and 174 respectively. They're at 14,000 respectively, and they are cooking. But they're ASG 20. Oh no, 9 or 8 is an AS 33, but his water system is broken, and 8-9er is an ASG 29. it's pretty amazing here that Pete is flying and holding on to Rick Ingerbro in a waterless AS-33. Even though an AS-33 is an incredible glider, that says something. Now, he does have a motor, so his wing loading is not low, but I'm sure 8.9er is at 11.3 or 11.5, like most 29s do. But interesting. 9-0 had another miss there. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here on our group. 9 Bravo, 7 Tango, 9-0. And you can see here, I've fallen back, but I found a good 3 meter per second climb. 9-0 caught up to 2 Tango. 9 Bravo went out ahead. And let's look at the climb rates. Ooh, big one. 3.5 meters per second for 9-0 for 2,500 feet. So he actually should have gained on me there because mine was 3. So let's see what happens. Maybe, there's also the amount of deviation and the amount of lift. The amount of lift in the line that we're picking. And but there's a lot of mystery to that, as we don't know for sure what's happening. So I come in, even though 9-0 and I were together, I come in above him at 16.8 and 9-0 is at 16.1. So somehow there I gained 700 feet on 9-0 and got back ahead of 2 Tango. So that is pretty good. But 9 Bravo, you just look at his speed. He's by far the fastest, almost 180 at this point. So Andy Blackburn is killing it. But he is a little lower. He's down at 13.6, which, if you factor that out, is a little less of a lead than it looks right now in the data. All right, so I take off. 2 Tango follows. Let me zoom back. 9-0 follows, so I've gained a little bit on 9-0. Here's the turn point right here. 8.9er and 9.8 pushing into the turn point. And Alpha 8 and Romeo Fox are at about a 90-degree deviation here. And the reason is they're a little low, and it's kind of funny to say that 14.5 is a little low, but two things here. Tiger country, and this is a downwind turn point. You want to go into a downwind turn point as high as possible before we head back out into the wind over this very, very high terrain, this high plateau. So we're probably only, 3 or 4 or 5,000 feet above this terrain. This is probably, pretty close to 8, 9, 10,000 feet. And I apologize to the locals. I don't know exactly what the height is, but we're much closer to the ground here than we think, and there's absolutely nowhere to land. And you can see how high the terrain is right there. Look it up on Google Earth. I apologize for not having it. I'm also hugely deviated here, so there must be a cloud over here. 9 Bravo tries to hit it, and you can see how powerful altitude is, because even though the average speed looked much faster for 9 Bravo and Alpha 8 started 4 minutes in front of me, 9 Bravo started with me, we are basically catching them. All right, Alpha 8 and 9er 9er Bravo, Romeo Fox, we all skip that. So does 2 Tango and 9-0. So we're committed now, and we're coming in at about 14.5. I think Alpha 8's a little higher. No, he's a little lower. 14. I'm 500 feet above Alpha 8. And 9 Bravo is hunting for a climb there. Let me zoom out here. And 2 Tango and 9-0 stop. This might be the issue. 1 minute, and 9-0 stops for 13 minutes. Oh, that can't be right. But something does happen in a 9-0 here. And okay, so 9 or 8 here. 8-9er is taking the turn point. 7 Tango is taking a 1.8. Okay, so this is important. So I stop here a couple 5K short of the turn because the 8, 9 are deviating pretty heavily here. The next turn point is this way. But a 1.8 meters per second climb before you go back into, call it 10 knots of wind is worth about 2.3, 2.4. I don't know the exact math, but it's worth considerably more. And I suspect it's windier than this is reporting. This seems to be always low. I remember there being quite a bit of wind, substantial, something like 10 to 20 knots. So Alpha 8 is taking the turn point at 13.6. I'm climbing up and going to go into the turn point higher and have a lot more options because, again, we're so close to this terrain here. You can see 8, 9er is really, really deviating rather than just running back out. And that might be because he's too low to comfortably feel like he can go back out. But the next turn point is this direction. 8, 8, 9er is almost going backwards here. If I look from the top, zoom out, to get up. So finding a climb here at 1.8 meters per second is really good and is a lot better than making a huge deviation or coming in low and, having to take a huge risk by going low over this terrain. So I was kind of looking for something to show in this task, and I think that was maybe one of the more interesting things. Sailplane racing is about not stepping in it, not making mistakes, going as fast as you can by taking less risks than your opponents, and eventually attrition knocks them down. You don't really climb up. You're not going to do some heroic thing. Speaking of that, you can see Zulu Lima, who is ahead of our group, is still out here and hasn't come into the turn point. So he's definitely lost something. He's at 15.8 and I'm at 15.4, but he's got to come upwind to get to the turn point, and he's a good 25K away, it looks like there. Yeah, so there's 1K, so you can call it 10K. So that didn't work out. But anyway, that's what's going on. The big deal: take climbs before going back upwind if you can. Now, obviously, if there was some obvious marker out here and somebody went in and found a 3 or 4 knot climb, meter per second climb into the wind, that would win. That would certainly trump a 1.8 meter per second climb. But this is about steadying out risk and being smart. And it was probably very hard to not go with Alpha 8, who I knew I had caught, Romeo Fox, who I knew was fast, 9 Bravo, who I knew was fast and hard to hold on to. It was probably hard. It took a lot of discipline to take this climb. And let's see how it goes. You can see the wind is actually, looks like it's even showing out of the south at this point, but maybe that's just the way the column of air is going. Doesn't necessarily follow the wind all the time, especially in a mountain environment, as most of you probably know better than I. So I take this up almost to 17,000 and head out. Alpha 8 goes back pretty much on course. I've gotten by Romeo Fox now. Here comes Zulu Lima, and let's compare. So amazing. Zulu Lima was a bit ahead of me. He did those deviations. He's at 15.8. I'm at 15.9. So overall, he did go very fast, but it looks like he might have lost something like 5K or 8K of forward distance. I think he was with Alpha 8. Now Alpha 8 is very low at this point, 13,000. So, but what a ballsy move to go out and do that for David Leonard. And he almost made it work, it looks like, because it definitely wasn't strong in here, as you saw from those climb rates. All right, 2 Tango and 7 Tango kind of round exactly together. I've got a little bit of height on him, and 9-0 is just taking the turn point there, so I've gained a little bit on 9-0. So the peloton is really starting to thin out, and this was a really fun day. I really remember enjoying this, and I was loving that it was a racing task. It looks like I go almost back to the same spot, but don't stay very long. It looks like I took a couple climbs there. And 9-0, who is lower, 9-0 is at 14. He stops for 4 minutes in the 1.8, but he's already taken the turn, right? So he's, drifting back, where I was drifting to the turn point, and probably gained a little bit there. Probably 1/3 of the climb rate, probably 1/3 of the time. So, if he's in it for 4 minutes, I probably gained a minute or two on that. Very interesting here. So you can see Alpha 8 makes a massive deviation back to the left. And where's 8-9er? And there's 8-9er. He's back up, but he made a big deviation, and you can see we're actually, going this direction. So he's lost a lot of time on that. And there's Zulu Lima. David, I'm impressed. That was gutsy. All right. So we're going through that weak area where it was hard to find climbs. I'm hooked up with 9 or 8, Pete Alexander here. I remember flying with him. 9 Bravo is also kind of with us, but 9 Bravo is quite a bit lower. So I'm at 13, and 9 Bravo is at 12, so it's like 800 feet. Zulu Lima is down with 9 Bravo, it looks like. There's 2 Tango and Romeo Fox. And we have some head-to-head traffic coming into the turn point with us. And there's Alpha 8. And he must be deviating for clouds. There must be wisps or small cue balls that are popping up to sort of earn those kind of deviations. 3.1 meters a second. So pretty darn good. I took 1.8 going into the turn, and 3 meters a second into the wind is probably worth about 2 meters a second, but still a relatively good climb rate. And I think 9.8. Zoom in just a little bit. Takes a couple turns, and he might come over to my climb. .1. Alpha 8's getting low up there, 12.8, but he's right where the strongest triggers of lift should be. And I think he's going over here to where the terrain is rising a little bit more steeply, looking for a bigger climb, and you can see 7 Tango and 9 or 8 are right on course. And here's 2.4 meters a second, and Alpha 8 finds 3.4 over there. So that digs him out of some trouble. I had basically caught him at that point. It was looking really good. He went off course to where he felt the lift would be a little stronger. He was right, and got a little bit of a higher climb rate. And we're both going to about 16.5 there, it looked like. So he's a little higher than us there. But one thing also to notice is in this next glide, I get a little better glide ratio, which is sort of consistent. And I was doing a little bit better job finding lift on the runs, which is really important in sailplane racing. 2 Tango and Zulu Lima shifting out here for something. And there's a weak one, 1.5 meters a second. That isn't going to win anything. 9 Bravo comes in beneath us. Probably was a bad climb to take, but there's probably a wisp above us, and there's probably not much more left. And I know that this is a racing task. I know where I've started. I know the net distance to the people who are behind me, and I know I'm in a really good position. I believe I knew 9-8 started behind me. I know 9 Bravo started behind me and was below, and I know Alpha 8 started ahead of me, and I'm pretty close. So I'm fat, dumb, and happy here, pushing hard, but also trying not to make any mistakes to blow it. And zoom back. There's 8-9er. Just sorry, Rick, but it's important to kind of follow these, the various strategies. So Alpha 8 really cooks on this leg, and there I stop and junk again and waste another minute. Painful. 9 or 8 stays a little while longer. He's probably, his glide computer is telling him he needs more, and I'm pretty close to final glide here if I remember correctly. Alpha 8's definitely got final glide, even though he's only at 12.5 there, rounding the turn. He's on this high terrain, and there's the finish. So I definitely would have seen Alpha 8 there coming out of the turn point, so I had a pretty good picture of what that was. Probably didn't know how far in front he started. I probably just knew that he started in front. I was probably still pretty happy. 9 or 8 is flying dry in an AS-33. Pretty impressive. And let's stop and take a picture backwards. 8-9er, 9 or 8. 8-9er caught back up to 9 or 8 there, which is interesting. Let's look back at them. I bet you 9 or 8 is... 8-9er is as high as 9 or 8. Zulu Lima, 2 Tango, 9-0 here. Romeo Fox, 1 Charlie, DG, 9 or 8, 1. And I'll speed it up because that's pretty much the end of the task. I'm going to zoom out here just a little bit so you can see everyone. Obviously, these folks all started later, but it's pretty late in the day now at this point. I believe it's after 6 o'clock, so it's probably 6:11. And they've still got a good 30-40 minutes of flying to get home, so you can see why starting early made sense. So final glide ratio is very similar, 36 to 38. Not really too much to say about that, but that was the task. And I believe 6,500 feet is the finish altitude. And there I crossed the line just about right. So let's go back over to the scores. So good battle between John and I. I had a chance to probably get a few more points out of him today. They're going into the second turn point on the back of the plateau, but he did a good job of finding a better climb and pulling back out ahead to basically turn it into a tie. Rick Ingerbrough probably had a really good chance of winning that task. You saw he made a pretty big deviation out of that back plateau turn point, and that cost him a little bit. Dave Leonard ended up 8th for the day despite a massive deviation, and from the point he deviated, David's a ASG 29. He didn't have his JS3 yet at this point. That was quite interesting, and it was fun flying with Bob Fletcher, Andy Blackburn, and and Robin Clark and Peter Dean. And Peter Dean flew extremely well here. So let's see, 158 to 163 and 162 for third place. So yeah, that was it. That was the day 4. You can see the overalls here now. Still pretty tight at the top. 3 guys in the 3600s and 4 guys in the 3500s. So there's still basically 7 guys in this event. And the next few days get even more exciting and more tricky. So I'll have those for you. I think actually the next one, the 5th day, is really an exciting one. A big area task with massive storms and a lot to deal with. We'll get that out in the next couple days. Thanks for coming and watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and leave any comments or suggestions in the YouTube comments. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.